so much, Han. I really am excited about tonight. As some people who've been part of our organization or have been to these annual general meetings in the past may know, we are, sorry, is there someone who could maybe spotlight me? I'm not sure whether, I can't tell whether people can see me or not, but my name's Miranda. I've been with Parents for Public Schools for about 8 years. And I have been through a lot of these annual general meetings, and as some of you may remember, we've taken on really exciting topics in the past, like middle grades redesign and our student assignment system. And it's been an opportunity for families to come together, really talk to each other about issues, share feedback, share their thoughts, ideas, concerns, and also really get to know some of the staff at SFUSD who's doing all of the heavy lifting and hard work behind the scenes, and just make some of those connections with leadership within the school district. And so we're really excited tonight to have a great panel of presenters who are here to try to answer some of your questions. And we do want to be really clear that right now there are more questions than answers on a lot of these topics when it comes to, you know, what's going to happen next year. There are many moving parts, and these are things that they're just, we don't have all the answers that we want to have. We know, we've heard loud and clear all the questions that are out there, and all the concerns and hopes and fears about, you know, what the future holds and whether we'll have 5 days a week of full-time school and what, you know, safety precautions will be in effect. And so we know that we're not going to be able to answer all of those questions tonight, but our hope is that we can share some of the work that's been happening for the past year, going into summer, going into next year, to really think about the needs that our students are going to have, and how we can help support our students and how we can help support our school communities and our district in really addressing, you know, all of the needs that our students are going to have, and also really propping up all the strengths that they've developed over the course of this trying year. So the folks that we have with us today are Melly Lau Smith, who's the Chief of Student, Family, and Community Support at SFUSD. We have Eric Rice, who's the Director of College and Career Pathways at SFUSD. Kevin Gogan, who's the Director of Safety and Wellness at SFUSD. Anna Clafter, who's a principal at Independence High School. We have Diana Alvarez Santos, who's the head counselor at Marshall High School. Javan Atchan, who is the community wellness counselor at Bayview Hunters Point YMCA, and Sarah Williams, who is the acting director of Opportunities for All with the city. So based on the questions that we have received from the people who RSVP'd to this event, we've asked our guests to share some information about what has been happening over the past year, and also about what is known about supports that will be in place in the fall and also throughout the summer for students. And so I'd like to start sort of the first bucket of questions that we wanted to ask to get some information about is about wellness. So what we're wondering and what we've heard from families is we want to know what schools and the district know about the impacts of the pandemic on distance learning and on student wellness, and what schools and staff are doing to support students now and in the fall. And if there are ways that SFUSD and schools are thinking about and planning for supporting students as they return to school. And then also, who can parents reach out to if they're concerned about their students' well-being, mental health, social and emotional well-being. So I think I'm going to pass this over first to Kevin Gogan, who's the Director of Safety and Wellness. And so thank you for being here. And I know that you have a few slides that I think Kate is going to help present, and you can just tell her when to move to the next one.
There we go. Thank you, Miranda. There are a number of questions that you offered, and I think I will answer many of them in the next few slides. Thanks also for including me in the discussion about the services that we have available for all of our students in high schools, and how parents and families can access those. Kate, if you could go to the next slide, please. So every high school has a wellness team in the district. And the wellness team, the standard model is to have a community health outreach worker, a wellness coordinator who is also a social worker, a school district nurse, a mental health provider, and we work with our community partner RAMS on providing that, a youth outreach worker, which are student peer educators, and we work with a variety of community partners to provide group and individual services. Next slide, please. The services we provide are individual, group, and we have outreach and education. We have drop-in support, and even virtually, the drop-in support is happening in terms of our social workers and our community health outreach workers have scheduled times when they are available for students to drop in and then can be referred in the moment. Counseling, nursing services, and case management is all individual. And then our groups includes our affinity groups, like for young women, young men, Latinx students, as well as our LGBTQ plus students. We have our what's called our Q group, which is a psychoeducation group run by our social workers in collaboration with our community partners. Healing circles, group mentoring, and our youth leadership opportunities, which includes our youth outreach workers. And then we still, even during distance learning, are providing classroom presentations, which are led by our youth outreach workers and community providers, and school-wide events. We actually have had some virtual school-wide events around how to access resources and services necessary to be successful in school and to be sure that students are accessing what they need for their mental and physical health. Next slide, please. So wellness program access happens in a variety of ways. Through outreach and education, we do have and have had, it varies at site by site during distance learning, but class parent outreach and education sessions where we have had some workshops. Resources for families have been sent via email and are on the website for the schools. And then we also provide staff wellness opportunities for our teachers and counselors and other staff at school sites. Outreach and education, Wellness 101. Ooh, can we go back? Thanks. Outreach and education, Wellness 101 and other presentations in classrooms. So staff will push in to virtual classes to let students know what's available and how to get it. I already mentioned that we have drop-ins and self-referrals that students can refer themselves. And then through the coordinated care team and other outside sources from families, students are referred to wellness that way. Next slide, please. We also know that as we move back, and we are very hopeful about the process of moving back into brick and mortar in-person education, that we have areas to grow. We want to increase our student voice more, access our youth outreach workers in a more concrete way to help us with programming and decision-making across sites. We want to continue our ability to grow in our family partnership because, as you know, high school students can access services confidentially and privately, but we want to be sure that we are encouraging and having dialogue with families at home. We are continuing to hire our Black, Indigenous, people of color, and bi, multilingual, and LGBTQ staff because they represent the students that we serve. And we are also continuing our work to be sure that staff are placed with particular needs to the language and culture at individual school sites. And then we want to continue to expand responsive wellness offerings based on the cultural needs of our students. Next slide, please. So I don't think it's news to any of our families that the last months have been challenging for our students. Our ability to access them in school is a luxury we have lost. but we are accessing our students. Whereas before we would have classroom sessions that would be 50 minutes or a 45-minute class period, we're doing more frequent but shorter check-ins to guarantee that our students are receiving the services they might need. Many of you probably received calls through the family wellness check, and we followed up with students and families following those family wellness checks. So how to access additional help with us. There is the Student and Family Resource Link line, and there are 3 ways through the email, and an online request, and then a phone number. Every high school has wellness information on their website. So go to the school website, and there are probably something there under students, and you can click on that and there will be a wellness website there. And parents, families, as well as students can file an online referral there. And also, just for everyone to know, in case a consultation is needed and you want to talk to someone, Comprehensive Child Crisis at 415-970-3800 is staffed 24 hours a day, and they can answer questions and provide resources for you in the moment. Next slide, please. Thanks. I've listed here Christine Hardiman, who's the program administrator for the high school wellness program. And here's my contact information as well, if you have any further questions. Thanks very much.
Great. And actually, before we go into that next slide about summer, I was wondering if there are any of the other guests who are here who might want to speak to supports that have been helpful. I know we have some people from high schools, high school leadership. If you have anything to add in terms of ways that both schools and families can think about supporting students during this time and what you've noticed that's most needed.
Yeah, I can add something, Miranda. Hi, I'm Anna Clafter. I'm the principal at Independence High School. We're a small alternative school in the Inner Sunset neighborhood, and we serve students from across the city, grades 9 through 12. We've seen a lot of participation in our wellness programs during distance learning, and we've also learned a lot about some of the ways in which students actually prefer to do social and group activities, via Zoom or through other sort of remote tools. And we're taking those lessons and thinking about next year, and even now, while we have students returning to the building, how we can keep providing different modes of participation and support so kids who feel more comfortable, being on Zoom and maybe they have their camera off and they're doing the art club activity, can still find ways to engage. And we're sort of excited about some of the things we've learned about over the last year. So that's what we've been thinking about.
Great. And is there anybody else who has any other thoughts on wellness? I know we also had some questions about academics, but if there's anyone else who has something to share about supporting students.
Hi, I'm Javon Chan. I'm a clinician over at the Baby YMCA right in Baby Hunters Point, and I provide community mental health services for individuals, children, couples, families, and it's free mental health services. So just to let you all know that, for support for families. And what I have seen just moving from a virtual space, working with students that were in office that, transitioned either over to teletherapy, which was new for all of us because we didn't do it before. And just as school is starting to open up and that transition is happening, where students are. And so what I noticed that was most helpful for young people was having like family connection and making sure the family were a part of the the clinical support counseling process. So not just the student if possible, but bringing that whole family unit in really to bridge like a real buffer around that student with all the transition. So just a lot around adjustment and transition and change. But when being able to identify, a parent, a caretaker, a coach, someone who could kind of just, like I said, kind of buffer and rally around them and be a family holistic part of therapy. And so that's what I have noticed. I've kept students more engaged when it's in doing check-ins also with family around family therapy, even though I was serving the student. And then resources for the parent. I know that also has helped. I saw for my students to remain in therapy when parents had more resources, just to how to navigate all the change and being at home and, having a student at home or not wanting to engage. So the more tools they had, I found that the students that I worked with were more successful in working through their wellness through therapy.
So much. I really appreciate all the different perspectives and supports that are out there in the community for students right now. And hopefully we'll be able to share some resources with folks after this meeting as well. I wanted to move into just kind of an overview of some of the questions and concerns that we've been hearing about academics. And, especially coming from, we're hearing, some students have really struggled in distance learning, that there are students who haven't, who maybe have not passed a class, need to make up some credits, concerns about what's this going to mean for college or post high school. How will parents know if their students are on track to graduate? And what should families be doing to sort of make sure that their students are in a good place academically, and that they can give them all the supports that they need. And so I don't know, I think Melly, were you going to start by speaking to that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to. I can speak some, and then I think there is a counselor who might be able to also add information that is happening directly at some of the school sites. So in general, throughout the district, middle schools and high schools have counselors, grade level counselors for students. And those students those counselors meet with students on their caseload, the students that they support throughout the year, to basically look at how are they doing? Are they on track? What's their course load? How are they doing with the A through G and the graduation requirement lessons, and do individual check-ins around academics, socio-emotional supports, and college and career readiness. School counselors are also supported by the central office to get data that helps them know which students are more likely on track for their H through G requirements and their graduation requirements, so that they can reach out and give more targeted support as needed. Students also can enroll in summer school programs, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat to the website that tells you what's offered. A lot of the programming is going to still be offered virtual this summer. There might be some in-person options, but that's a good place for you to go to see what is available to you. So I will do that so you can see that. You also, it's also always great. I mean, we always recommend the best source is the teachers and the counselors and the principal at your school. They know your child the best, and they have your child's best interests at heart, and a partnership with you for the best for your child is really a great place to start. So meeting with your student's school counselor early on in the school year, doing transcript reviews with the counselors or with teachers to understand where your student is, where your child might need more support. You can have access. Hopefully you've all signed up for Parent View. That's a great tool to use to be able to see what's happening for your child, both in terms of attendance. You can look at an unofficial transcript. There's a lot of information. You can communicate with your principal and teachers and things like that. There's also and I'll drop the link called My Future, My Hands Guide. And it's also a tool that students could use and families can use together that sort of guides a student, gives them their own agency to think about, how do I plan for my future? So those are sort of some general things, and I'm not sure if other folks on the Zoom call would like to add.
I could add something too about credit recovery just for the alternative schools and the continuation high schools. We're on a hexmester, which means we have 6 terms a year, and each term students meet with their advisor or their counselor to go over progress and credit acquisition. So we start planning for credit recovery fairly early in the year, and we start signing kids up. Some of the schools have their own individual credit recovery programs, and a lot of kids also choose to go into the district partnership with CCSF credit recovery classes as well. And we also, a lot of the alternative schools, we give credit for the internships and the work experience that kids do over the summer. So that's another way that they can earn both money and credit during the summer. So we're really encouraging every kid who has the time and the will to look into some of these possibilities. I know we're going to be talking about some of them in a minute.
Shall I share my screen again so we can have a look at those? Who's Miranda?
Yeah, well, actually, I think maybe we'll pass it on to, well, I think, did Diana have something from Marshall High School to add to talk about some of the academic supports?
Yes, thank you, Miranda.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when to chime in. Yeah, definitely. So as we all know, I mean, yeah, everything that Melly and Principal at Independence said is spot on, as well as, I mean, we know each student is different, so their needs are different, their ability to learn. So everyone's different. There's no one size fits all solution for all our students. So schools are working really hard to work with families, work with our staff and support staff to meet the students' needs and meet them where they're at, work with the families to get them back up to speed where they should be. We have a team, each school has a team called the Coordinated Care Team. Within this Coordinated Care Team, we identify students that are struggling so we can support them, not only with the Coordinated Care Team, but also the teachers in the classroom. Everybody is super focused and aware of what this pandemic has caused and the different issues and struggles that families have experienced with this pandemic. So everyone's super on board and looking out for the best interest of each student and seeing how we can support them. They submit referrals if they see a student struggling. We call home, make phone calls, have parent conferences, student conferences. With that, it's very, very important that all families maintain their addresses and phone numbers, all their contact information up to date. If you don't know how to do that, please contact your school and we will definitely support you with getting that information up to date, because we do want to work with you and be a team and collaborate together so we can support your child. Yeah, so schools offer a plethora of resources for students. We offer tutoring, after school tutoring. Teachers have office hours, so students can check in with the teachers and get one-on-one support if they don't feel comfortable asking questions in the class. We also have different ways. Sometimes students just need a way to figure out what motivates them and engages them so they can pick up their grades. Some of them is sports. I don't know what that's going to look like next year, but hopefully we can start having some sports. Some students, that's their motivation. Also clubs and organizations, being able to participate in those clubs and activities at school also motivates students. We have different programs, CBO partners, community-based organizations that also support with the learning. And I have my own here that also likes attention. But yeah, we try to communicate with the parents, with parent conferences, set up SSTs where we can meet with the parent, identify what the issues students are struggling with, what it is they need, so then we can figure out how to meet them where they're at and support them. Progress reports are mailed at the end of every grading period.
There's a total of 3 grading periods each semester, a total of 6 throughout the school year. Please, that's another reason why it's important to keep your address up to date. These reports are sent from the district to your home so you can see how your child's performing. Also, we have some schools are different. We also mail notices home. Yeah, we work really hard in identifying, discussing who's struggling academically, whose grades have lowered, so we can try to identify that early on to support the families. Along with credit recovery, some schools have credit recovery built into their schedule to support students with making up classes. As a counseling team, we try to identify that, and I can guarantee you each school does that, try to identify what classes students need to repeat based on their goals. We do 4-year planning with students, so we identify what their goals are. If they're planning to go to 4-year college, community college, other vocational trade school opportunities. So we work with students on what their goals are and support them on what it is they need to do to meet those goals. If they need to make up a class because they got a D or an F and that's bringing down their GPA, we'll try to identify that early on. At the beginning of each semester, there is an opportunity to enroll in credit recovery, and then also in summer school, there's an opportunity to enroll in credit recovery. Students are able to take up to 2 classes during the semester to make up grades. And then again, like I mentioned, sometimes it's built into the schedule so they can take it, make up a class within their day schedule. Let me see, I know I've said a lot. As far as making sure students are on track, communication. Please, if you're not hearing and you're curious, call the school, call the principal, call, email a teacher, and everyone will support in getting you in the right path. Yeah, so I don't know, was there another question? I feel like
you've given such a great amount of information, and I think it's really clear that your school counselor is a great resource, and so I really appreciate you sharing what some of the supports are that you provide at your school, and that's matched across schools in the district. The counseling department will be able to help families walk through some of these opportunities and challenges. I want to have some time for Eric Rice to share a little bit about pathways and what those have been looking like and will look like. And then after that, we're going to pass it on to Sarah Williams, who is running this amazing program called Opportunities for All that includes some other summer programs. So Eric, do you want to take a few minutes to share about what's happening with the career pathways?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Miranda. And I do want to start by saying I am a proud parent of 2 SFUSD students. I have a 7th grader, and I'm a proud Everett parent. I have a 10th grader who's in the architecture and design program at SOTA. So I'm a big time, we've all the way through and through SFUSD. So I say that both out of excitement, and I also understand where anxieties are as a parent. So thanks for joining tonight. Originally I was going to just talk about our pathways. I oversee the department that has, we have 49 multi-year career themed pathways in our high schools. And I could talk about that for a long time, but what I think I want to do is just, we've heard a lot about the amazing supports and how to, work with students who are struggling and everything that's in place. And Diana, who is an amazing representative of that work at Marshall. I also want to highlight, Marshall has a culinary program, and what they did this year is they organized to get food boxes home to their culinary students, that students had hands-on project-based learning at home. You have the John O'Connell Public Service Academy that has organized 8 weeks of mentorships with industry professionals that are online, that are working with their students on their end of 12th grade capstone original, problems. They're dealing with community problems, and they're working with professionals in the field to work through that. And then they will be defending that in front of a panel in the next month. You have Balboa High School, whose environmental science pathway partnered with the San Francisco Planning Department to create design concepts for their own neighborhood, and analyzed in the same way that professionals are doing that in the field. You have Burton High School's Health Academy also doing capstones, and those students are all being matched up with mentors to take on real health issues. The Engineering Academy, also at Burton, is working with design firm to take on original design challenges. SOTA, we could talk about the arts, but students led an LGBTQ summit today for students. The Teacher Academy at Lincoln, their students are part of the system in elementary schools. They have their own whiteboards in their houses. They're leading elementary school kids in classes. So that is both my way of sharing the amazing things happening in our pathways, and to let you know that our teachers and our administration and our community-based organizations that are partnering in this work have demonstrated amazing creativity and resilience and really student-centeredness, I would say, to say, you know what, yeah, this is a struggle, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. There have been real struggles. Absolutely. I gave you all the highlights. There are real struggles in there. So I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or over romanticize it. And just to share that both in a distance learning context and then back in person, this work is live, this work is real, and there's really exciting work happening in our high schools. I'll close by just saying that, out for our pathways and beyond, our high schools are really thinking right now about return to school. And when I say that, I mean, and there are tons of unknowns about that. We know that we're still, and everybody wants the final word of exactly what it's going to look like. What I can say, and I know that Anna could probably reiterate this, and Diana is, and I know Sarah Ballard Hansen, you're on the call, that everyone wants to make the return to school both academically and emotionally powerful and meaningful as students are coming back. In the same way that people are super excited about now that we get graduation in person, and there's this like, everyone is excited about what that's going to look like. No one is under any illusion that it's going to be business as usual. We know that we're going to support students to transition back and think about both their academic, social, emotional, community, all those sorts of needs. So I'll pause there, and I think I'll be available in a breakout room later on to ask more questions about pathways, et cetera.
Yeah, I should say that up front that we'll have some time to get more in depth if you want to ask more specific questions. The end of our event tonight is going to end with people being able to go into smaller breakout rooms to ask some direct questions. But I really appreciate all that you just were able to share, Eric. I do want to move along and make sure that we have a chance to hear about Opportunities for All, which has tons of opportunities for our teens in the city. And we actually have Sarah Williams, who's from Opportunities for All. She's the acting director, and she is going to share a short presentation about what these opportunities are.
Thank you, Miranda, and thank you everyone for having me this evening. As Miranda mentioned, I'm with Opportunities for All, and I'd like to share a little bit about what that is and what we offer. So Opportunities for All was launched by Mayor London Breed as an initiative back in October of 2018 to address economic inequalities by ensuring that young people in San Francisco have extended access to internship opportunities. We know that the most disenfranchised and vulnerable of our youth are often overlooked for some of the other opportunities. And so this is a chance for those youth who may feel that they don't have access to this type of opportunity to engage in an internship and in a project-based work experience. We work with dozens of partners that include government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and private companies to provide internship opportunities. And we focus heavily on introducing interns to the workforce, job readiness training, career exposure, and building pipelines for career opportunities that exceed just the summer engagement. We've placed over 2,900 youth within the last 2 years, and this year we anticipate placing about 1,600 youth into project-based work experiences. We're working in 2 sessions this summer. The first session runs from June 7th through July 16th, and the second session runs from July 5th through August 13th. And the only criteria for applying are that you either live in San Francisco, attend a school in San Francisco, work in San Francisco, or have a parent or guardian who works in San Francisco, with preference given to SFUSD students. Last year, we pivoted to a majorly virtual internship program. This year, we're slowly moving back to in-person placements, but the majority of our placements will again be virtual or a hybrid placement, meaning that it will be partially virtual, partially in person. I do want to be transparent about availability. So as I mentioned, we anticipate 1,600 available placements this summer, and we recognize that many internship opportunities are no longer available due to the pandemic. As a result, we've seen an influx of applicants and have already received more than 1,500 applications to date. We typically see about a 70% placement rate due to either declines from participants or ineligibility. And so thinking about it in those terms, we're looking at about 1,000 placements of those 1,500 applicants that we've received. So if your student is interested in a summer internship through Opportunities for All, please have them apply ASAP. Once the placements are filled, we move to a waitlist status, and applicants on the waitlist will be contacted in the order received should additional opportunities become available. This is the link to the application, which I will also drop in the chat at the end of my presentation. We do accept applicants on a rolling basis, but again, we are moving towards capacity very, very quickly. So please get your applications in as soon as possible. We're a stipend-based program, and so interns receive a flat rate stipend on a biweekly basis. This is important to acknowledge because we don't withhold taxes from those stipends. So at the end of the year, your interns will receive a 1099 tax form from our employer of record. We host placement meetings for our applicants who have been invited to participate. And this is an opportunity for them to sit down with our placement coordinators and discuss what their interests are so that we make sure that we're offering them an opportunity that really aligns with the things that they want to do. And if they don't have any idea what they want to do, that's okay as well, because this is their chance to learn something about an industry that they may not know. And we work in a cohort model. We place groups of interns together so that they also build camaraderie, co-working skills, and learn to really speak out and become confident and comfortable within a group. So when you go to that application link, which again, I'll drop in the chat at the end of this presentation, you'll see this. This is the landing page. This is important because we have 2 applications. We have our intern application, but we also have an application for college age students. So you want to make sure that your young people are filling out the proper application. Once they click on this summer 2021 OFA intern application, this is what they should see. If they don't see this, they clicked on the wrong application. So please go back and make sure that they click on that intern application. When they get to this landing page, our employer of record is JCYC, and many of you are probably familiar with JCYC because they host internship opportunities for most of the city of San Francisco. And they have a universal application. So if applying for Opportunities for All, when they get to this page, it's important to select OFA. As you'll see here in the select the programs you are applying to, there'll be multiple choices. So they'll want to click on Opportunities for All, and that will take them directly to the proper application for us. So what are some of the benefits of being part of Opportunities for All? Participants of work-based learning opportunities improve in areas that are associated with civic engagement and skills development. We have noticed a marked decrease in violent and property crimes after being a part of a summer jobs program for many youth. Participants gain valuable job experience, crucial job readiness skills, and on the flip side, this type of recruitment helps to develop a diverse pool of talent. It diversifies the talent pool for our employers and partners. And we try to create pipelines for long-term employments we've had on multiple occasions. Interns who have been placed with a particular employer be offered the opportunity to come back in a long-term capacity. And that's really the goal of Opportunities for All, to create these pipelines so that our interns enter the workforce prepared, ready, and looking forward to their careers. So if you have any questions, this is how you can get in touch with us. And I believe the slide presentation will be shared as well. For general information, opsforall@sfgov.org. If you have specific questions for me, please email admin@opsforallsf.org. And if you have questions about intern placements, particularly after your students have submitted their applications, you can email placements@opsforallsf.org. I too will be here for the question and answer. And I'm looking forward to talking more with you about this opportunity. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the amazing information. I know that we are a little bit behind in our time, just because we were trying to do so many things in a short amount of time. But if there are questions, I do encourage people to put in the chat, like if you have a question about one of the programs you've heard about, please feel free to ask it in the chat, and hopefully the folks who are on in this meeting can respond to sort of like direct factual questions. I can't promise that like every question you put in the chat will be able to be answered. We are going to have a little bit of time for Q&A later on, but we're going to move right now to having a breakout room, which I think is going to be, it's a new experiment we're trying, where it's like a choose your own adventure breakout room. It's a new feature on Zoom. And so hopefully it will work for you all. It's really going to be the same topic in every room. We're just going to have a chance to share a little bit about your experiences, your hopes and concerns for next year. And we'll have a staff member from PPS who is in each breakout room and taking notes. And so breakout room have a chance. Actually, we'd like to share out briefly what was shared in the breakout rooms. And so I think we were going to start, Kate, you were going to be able to share the Jamboard. And I think we were going to start by sharing what came out, what was discussed in the Cantonese language breakout room. And so we'll do that. I think is Chun going to, or actually Carol is going to read what was shared on the Jamboard. Kate, you can share the Jamboard, and then Chun will do the interpretation into English. Carol, do you want to share out in Cantonese what was shared?
Yeah, sure. So 我哋頭先就喺我哋嘅中文分享室嗰度啦，同大家一齊去分享過去一年入邊，咁你同你嘅家人啦經歷咗一啲乜嘢特別嘅變化或者係影響。咁其中有一位媽媽就分享啦，疫情係一個挑戰嚟嘅。本身咧爸爸媽媽係要兩邊飛嘅，咁疫情發生之後咧就只有媽媽喺屋企更加多嘅時間啦。Chen。
Before the pandemic, both parents need to travel around. Now, actually, parents are staying in 2 different locations, and only mom is staying home.
Yeah， 咁同時咧，我哋都建議啲今日嚟參加嘅爸爸媽媽啦，去諗下有冇啲係好嘅改進。所以有2個家長就分享啦。咁其實疫情係會令到過去呢一年咧，反而令到家人咧多咗時間相聚埋一齊嘅，同埋多咗時間一齊去考慮未來嘅事情嘅。
And asking about any changes, 2 parents did make a suggestion. One did make a suggestion to spend more time together, and another one made a suggestion to think more about the future.
Right.
咁當第2個問題，我哋就同家長一齊去分享，接住落嚟呢一個學年啦，大家會唔會對新嘅學年會有一啲期待，或者係有啲擔憂咧？咁有爸爸媽媽就分享啦，學校開放啦，佢哋希望第一時間可以將小朋友送返學校，因為佢哋需要多啲同埋盡快同外界去接觸嘅。
And the second question, talking about the next school year and any concerns. Someone shared that when schools reopen, the first thing they should do is to have the kids go back so that they can have more interactions with the outside world.
咁當然啦，亦都有家長去分享到佢哋嘅擔憂啦，同埋提出咗一啲問題嘅，就包括新嘅學年如果真係可以俾小朋友翻去學校嘅話，有啲乜嘢安全嘅措施咧？咁佢哋都擔心啦，高中生有佢哋自己嘅諗法，可能家長咧控制佢哋嘅能力就唔係咁多，咁其實安唔安全送佢哋翻學咧？
And also, parents ask questions and about concerns about the upcoming new school years, like what are the safety procedures? And as we get to the new school year, being able to control their children is lower. So is it safe to go back to school?
咁最尾亦都有2個家長係分享關於佢哋其實係問題嚟嘅，係關於高中嘅 club 啦，有一啲係。如果佢哋已經冇上到成年，佢哋嘅能力技能方面，佢再翻去嗰個 club 嘅時候，可唔可以跟得翻嗰個進度？同埋就係咧，有一啲 club 咧係分男仔今個學期、女仔下個學期嘅。咁因為已經過去嘅呢一個學年係 miss 咗一個男仔嘅應該參加嘅嗰個機會，咁所以佢哋嘅仔咧就變咗參加唔到呢個 club 啦。所以佢哋就想問，接住落嚟呢一年會唔會亦都根據疫情或者係冇咗呢一個學年嘅機會？ 所以會重新多啲選擇俾學生嘅。
Great.
Carol, you might need to help me on this one. I didn't quite understand that one. Lastly, 2 parents shared questions about high school clubs. Are these clubs going to do some catch-up work because they missed out on certain things? And some of the clubs are separated by gender. So if they haven't been able to attend, will they lose out on their space or participation?
You got it. Thank you.
And I guess I'm wondering, is there somebody possibly on this call who might be able to, well, actually, I think what we're going to do, given the time, I do want to hear, maybe just highlight 2 or 3 of the comments from the Spanish breakout room and 2 or 3 of the comments from the English breakout room. And then if we have time to address a couple of the questions that have come up in our remaining few minutes, that would be great. So yeah, Martha, are you available to share out what people were talking about in the Spanish breakout room?
Yes, my pleasure. It was a very dynamic conversation. So do I say it in Spanish, right?
Yep.
La conversación fue muy dinámica. Parece que muchos de los padres han experimentado muchas de las mismas inquietudes. Muchas caen en el acceso a los consejeros. Parece que es muy difícil poder contactarse con un consejero en el tiempo apropiado que los padres necesitan. Los estudiantes se han sentido muy solitarios. El manejar las diferentes emociones ha sido algo un poquito de reto para los padres. Los maestros no han proporcionado las notas a su debido tiempo. Entonces eso los deja a los padres un poquito inquietos de cómo van los estudiantes en este proceso.
Okay, now time for the interpretation.
Yes.
The conversation was very dynamic. We talked about access to counselors that has been basically not up to par. Also, the students have been feeling quite isolated, and for the parents, this has been very difficult to deal with the emotions coming from their students. So far, that's how we say so far.
So las inquietudes más se basan en esa comunicación, la falta de comunicación que ha existido entre las escuelas y las familias.
The main issue is the lack of communication between the schools and the families.
We can move to what, if I have a little moment to express what they want for next year. So that
for next year.
Más o menos lo mismo, que quieren un calendario fijo, que quieren que los maestros den oportunidades para que los estudiantes mejoren las notas que no ha pasado este año, y mejor comunicación con consejeros que parece que nunca están disponibles para apoyar al estudiante.
Well, there are few things that we can focus on. First of all, to have a fixed calendar or a specific calendar for the students to be able to rely on for their as a schedule, and to improve the communication between parents and the school and the students and the school, and to have a program where they can recover grades if they are lagging behind.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then Greg, would you like to share? I think most people seem to go to your breakout room. So maybe we can share. Oh, I see. Perfect. Yeah. Greg, if you want to share out what we talked about.
Sure. Thank you, Miranda. The first question that I asked was, how has the past year been for your student? And a young man, we were impressed with him, stepped right in and unmuted himself and said that it was hard for him because being online without normal access to teacher support was an issue for him. And he felt that was an area that needed a lot of improvement. And he even had some wonderful suggestions about how to really increase that issue. I mean, to resolve that issue. But for him, that stood out. When asked what has been the hardest thing, we had quite a few comments. One of our parents said having a child with ADHD and being on distance learning was a major issue because children, of course, learn differently. And so being online just sort of had a cookie cutter approach to learning and did not really support a child with ADHD. When asked, have there been some positive areas of growth? One parent said for her, it had been, because prior to COVID, she had little to no experience with computers and Zoom and all these things. And so she wanted to support her child. And so she dove right in and began to peck away and also utilize YouTube. And she had so much personal growth in that area that she was able to assist some of her coworkers. So she was very proud of that. And then another parent finally said that students had to be independent learners. So having to foster that approach, she saw that her child was able to thrive and, in spite of the pandemic, have some real independence. And so it wasn't a total bad thing for her student. And that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. And I think that that is probably really going to be it for tonight, because I want people to be able to join the other event. And so I think we're just going to leave it. And I'm so glad that, actually that all the folks who are here had a chance to hear some of what families are experiencing and feeling and their hopes and concerns. I know that this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and I definitely hope that people will feel comfortable reaching out to Parents for Public Schools. If there are questions or concerns that you have, we're happy to help connect people with resources and connect folks with SFUSD. There's also a ton of information on SFUSD's website, and the family link line that was shared earlier is an amazing resource that's new this year. So I highly encourage people, if they are having concerns, questions, need access to resources, utilize that resource. You can access it. They have language support. It can be accessed by email and also by phone and online. So please do reach out. There are a lot of resources available, and we know that this is a really hard time. If you do have questions that are remaining, feel free to share them in the chat, send them to our email, info@ppssf.org. We will be sharing out this video and all the resources that we shared. And we just are so appreciative to everybody who's joined us tonight at our annual general meeting. So we look forward to seeing you all at some events that we are sure to have coming in the next months. And until then, I guess good night, everybody. And thank you so much to all of our guests. It was an amazing amount of information shared tonight. So appreciative of everybody and our interpreters and all of our staff who supported making this happen. So
thanks, everyone. We'll definitely be following up with information and resources. There'll be plenty coming your way.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.